Linda West,
Yes.
you just heard me singing my way into this, and you said I had a good voice, and I said, oh, I like to think so, but people on the karaoke don't think so. And you were talking about a new show and karaoke. What's all that about?
Well, I'm putting together a show, a bunch of different themes. But my idea is that when I start the show off, is I started off with a song, a karaoke song. I love karaoke. And what I'm hoping for is that my guests too will join me on the songs. And then I'll do it for commercials as well.
You've got to get me on your show, man. Because I'm like,
Okay.
I'll sing.
Awesome.
Actually, I just come back from 6 months in California, and we were there for like 5 months before my wife just casually pulled out the greatest karaoke machine I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were just addicted to it for days because, here on the Alcohol Addiction podcast, we talk a lot about how do you fill your white space when you stop drinking alcohol? How do you have fun? All that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Singing, all right, once you get over the nonsensical, I'm really afraid that people are going to judge me because I've got a crap voice part of it.
Right.
You really do have a good time, don't you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, totally. The first time I did karaoke was on a cruise ship because I was like, oh, I'll never see these people again. Well, what I forgot was that 10 of my friends were on the ship and they all saw me. So I never lived it down. But it's fun. I don't care.
My first ever song I sang was Rocky Raccoon by the Beatles, and
Okay.
which is an easy one to sing. Ever since then, everything has been a really high note and I've struggled. But, well, good luck with the show. I'm sure it'll be great. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, Linda?
Sure. My name is Lynda West, and I have a company called Living Live. The reason I started the company Living Live is because I realized that as growing up as a young child, my dad always had said, kids are better seen than heard. So because of that, I lived so much of my life in darkness, and I never wanted to be in the limelight. Well, one day I did something where somebody said, oh my God, that was brilliant. And it made me realize that I actually have some smarts that I need to share with the world. And I started sharing.
Mm.
And I started doing a lot of live videos. Well, I've done over 2,300 live videos.
That's a lot of live videos.
I know. Can you tell I love it?
Yeah,
Totally love it. So that's how I started Living Live was, by doing these live videos and just having a blast with it. And really, like you said, finding out what is that thing? What are those things that really light you up? That those are the things you should be doing more of because, as a child of an alcoholic, I grew up in an environment was full of alcoholism, but I discovered what my brilliance is. And I discovered what the things are that make my heart sing and make me enjoy life so much that not that I was a heavy drinker ever, but I've completely stopped drinking. And I looked back and I said, I haven't had a drink in like 4 months. I didn't even know why, but it's just because I'm enjoying my life so much that I'm not turning to that.
We'll touch upon that in a second, but I'm really curious. 2,300 videos. Can you remember what your first one was?
I do. I remember exactly the first ones. I've done over 3,300 videos. 2,300 of those have been live videos since Facebook Live came out. My very first video was because this young man that I know, I've known him since the day he was born. He was born with severe cerebral palsy. And about 3.5 years ago, he asked me if I would do a video for him. And I was shaking. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But I was like, oh, Ryan asked me. And I always say yes to Ryan because his life is tough on a daily basis. And all he's asking me to do is a video. So I did my very first video, like I said, trembling in my boots. And I remembered exactly. I basically was, hey, Ryan, this is Lynda. I'm doing the video that I promised you I'd do. Have a great day. Like that was my first video.
Right.
Something easy. And then the next day he's like, Lynda, I really like your video. Will you do one for me every day? And I was like, holy crap, every day? And I said, yes. So that's what started my journey of doing videos. And since I've done so many of them, I've become extremely comfortable and I share with other people how they too can become comfortable, doing videos and sharing who they are with the world. And it's been an amazing journey.
Oh, fantastic. And going back to your email, you've got an interesting footer at the bottom of your email. It says, P.S., have you heard about the time I was 5 years old and I run away? Now, I can't remember being 5 years of age. I think that's a good point to start on your life journey. Let's go back to 5. What are you doing running away at 5 years of age, and where did you go?
Well, it's really interesting that you brought that tagline up. I share that tagline because it really was a very prominent time in my life. And I didn't realize it at the time, of course, until just recently. I was meeting with a gentleman by the name of Les Brown that, maybe some people have heard of him. He's an international motivational speaker. And he said, what was the pivotal point in your life that something changed? Like, why did you run away when you were 5 years old? And I was like, well, I ran away to the neighbors. Okay. I was 5 years old. The neighbors, that's a far way to run away. The point is I was gone for an entire week.
Right.
So he said, what changed in your life that one day that after 5 years of going through your life, that day you decided you were going to run away and you were going to be gone forever? Because I was going to be gone forever, but my mom knew where I was and she had me come back. Well, what I realized was that my mom and dad, they had fought all the time. It was constant fighting. My dad was very physically abusive as well as emotionally abusive to my mom. And that day was like the day that I had it. I had enough and I was not going to live in that environment anymore. And at 5 years old, I decided I was just going to be gone. And so I picked up and I moved to the neighbor's house, and I was, intending to be gone forever, but my mom knew where I was. And after a week, finally, she said, okay, you can send Lynda back home. So that's why I came back home. Otherwise, I would still be living with those neighbors. I was so unhappy in my, childhood, my household, that I just didn't want to be there.
I like the way your mum allowed you, even at the age of 5, to have your autonomy and to almost like sort yourself out in your own time before she said, okay, that's enough. Most parents would have been, come on, don't be so silly, get home. So I think that's really nice. I actually run away from home similar to you, but I was a lot older. I don't know the exact age. Maybe it was 15, 16. I was really drunk. And my dad came into my bedroom, obviously not happy because I'm underage, drunk in his house. And up until this point, my dad had never laid a finger on me. He's not my biological father, but he's been there ever since I was as long as I can remember. And he started giving me a hard time, obviously, because I was disrespecting the rules of his house. I turned around and said, you're not my father anyway, so go fuck yourself, or whatever I said. He punched me on the nose. I started bleeding, I started crying, and I'm like, right, I'm out of here. And I run to my next door neighbor, same as you.
Yep.
And I lived there for a week, and then I come home, and my dad was crying. It's the only time I've heard him cry. It's the only time I've heard him apologize. But it was all my fault, totally deserved it. And alcohol was at the core of it. But when Les talked to you about this, what was the connection then? So you've explained what happened, but how did that experience then transmute itself into your beliefs, your worldview, your ideology, how you grew up? How did that put itself together?
Yeah, that's a really great question, because I didn't realize, like, again, until much later in my life, how my childhood had affected me. And, so often we will blame. I did. I blamed others for my misgivings for decades. It wasn't until I was 51 years old where I started to take responsibility for my own life. So, as a child, I blamed my parents for everything, and especially my mom for being so weak for staying with my dad, because my dad was, very abusive. And I always said, my mom is so weak, mom is so weak, and why won't she leave him? There were so many times that mom picked us all up. We had, there were 5 kids, 2 dogs, picked us all up to run away, but we always came back the same day. Like, we were never gone for a whole night without my dad. And, looking back at that, I realize now that instead of seeing myself as a victim from back then, is look at all the amazing things I learned about life and how to deal with things and how to, make it through tough situations. And if it weren't for that upbringing, that I would not be the same person I am today, with the same thoughts and ideals, that I have today, because they taught me how to work through those types of situations. I'm a survivor and a thriver, not a victim. And it really makes a difference for me in my life. And I don't know if that even answers the question.
I think so. Let's just recap on that a little bit. So you run away. Your father is physically abusive to your mom, not to you.
Hmm. Correct.
You're witnessing that.
Yes.
How does that feel as a child, seeing your mom being beaten by your father?
Totally helpless. Especially as a 5-year-old. But even as I got older, because as I got older, I remained the same 5-year-old.
Hmm.
And I still was helpless. I never stepped in. Then guilt started, coming into play where whenever mom was being beat, was it something I did? Was it my fault?
Hmm.
Because I did some things I shouldn't have done as a child. I was a kid, right? And I did a lot of things to get into trouble. I shoplifted when I was 10 years old and got in trouble for that. But then my mom took the brunt of the things that I did because dad never laid a hand on us kids. He yelled at us, but he never laid a hand on us. He always laid a hand on mom. So I always felt this guilty conscience that, mom was being beat because of me. And it's really interesting because as I look through my life, I realized that my mom and dad, they never said, I love you to me or to my siblings, but they said, I love you to other people in their life that they met later in life through AA. So it's like it was a totally different relationship that they had with the people in AA, and my mom was in Al-Anon, than they did with their own kids. And I used to blame them again, that I didn't know how to love people because of them, because they didn't know how to love me. But I realized that was because that's how they were raised as well, and they didn't know how to change that. It was so simple that they didn't know how. And it wasn't my job to change them. It wasn't their job to change them. It was just my job to accept them as who they are.
What do you remember from living under the roof of an alcoholic, other than the beating and of your mom and all that harrowing stuff? What else do you remember that sticks out for you? The difficulties, the trauma, the stigma, anything that you can think of?
Yeah, I remember just always being in fear when my dad was home. My dad was in the Navy and he got medically discharged. He had a heart attack when he was 35 years old.
Wow.
And they said it was from the drinking and from smoking because he was a heavy smoker as well. And so he was discharged from the Navy. And I remember loving it when dad was gone, on his tours, because we could be children. We could have a fun life. My whole family, we used to call ourselves the Von Trapp family from The Sound of Music because we all loved to sing. But when dad was home, we weren't allowed to sing. We weren't allowed to laugh and play and have fun. That's what I remember as a child. Although my dad did seem kind of like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde sometimes, because he did have a fun side to him. But when he was having fun, I was still always worried that he was going to revert back. So I was never relaxed around my dad and just always fearful when he was there. We took trips and things that always started off as a fun trip, and it ended up as this horrible trip that we had with everybody because my dad always got angry. Holidays were up and down. Oh my gosh. Before a holiday, dad was all excited, but when the holiday actually hit, it was like this torment. And it was just a whirlwind, a tornado running through the house, And so holidays are not really my favorite time of year, So it's kind of like it's played into my adult life as well. And I work on that, my mindset of changing the way I think and the way I feel about it. But it's a process. It's a long, hard process, but it takes continuous effort.
It's interesting that you say about your dad blowing up during the holidays, because I suffer from a little bit of a short temper, never ever physically violent to anyone, but I'm verbally abusive. It's something that I've been working on for a long time, getting somewhere with it, bringing more respect into my life and stuff. But my wife, Liza, often says that a lot of the times when my fuse is at its shortest is around holiday time, either on vacation or special occasions like birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, Valentine's Day, Easter, Christmas. And she's right. And I've always kind of thought about it and put it down to almost like a loss of identity. So I'm thinking about your dad being medically discharged from the Navy, and before that he was a sailor, right? And then he gets medically discharged, and he's like, what is he? He's lost his identity. And for me, if I suddenly stop working because it's the holidays or a vacation or something, I lose myself a little bit. I don't know what my role is in life, and I think that as a result of that, my patience. I mean, it's obviously a lot deeper than that, but I can easily get into an argument because I think a lot of times I want to be somewhere else. Like I'm so used to being this Lee, the guy who helps people become someone who doesn't drink alcohol, that when I'm not doing that, I don't know where I am. I need to go back there. And that could be, something that I'm working on, but it's interesting you say that because I draw a parallel to that, you know?
Yeah, it is interesting. I hear that it's very common with alcoholics too. I heard that from my dad. I never got involved in Al-Anon or Alateen because that wasn't for me. I was one of those kids. I was always going against the grain, and that's probably why I always felt like mom was being beat because of me, because I was always doing things that I shouldn't be doing. Yeah. But I was exercising. You were talking about age 15 and drinking, and I started drinking about age, I think it was 17 when I first had my first drink. And all my friends, we had this group called the Party Army. I mean, I was in the Party Army, so I was really proud to be one of the only girls that was in this party gang, And what I realized about age 22 or 23, I was going to the bars a lot. And I started thinking, am I an alcoholic? Am I? I'm not sure. So I would test myself, and I would, this time I'm going to have only one drink. Then the next time would be, I'm only going to drink water. The next time it would be, I'm going to have 4 drinks. And I would test myself to see what I could control while I'm out drinking. And I did discover that, I didn't have this need to drink, or I wasn't an alcoholic because, like I said, I just stopped drinking because I stopped drinking. I never thought about it,
How did you're 17 years of age, from 5 till 17, you're living under this dark cloud of worry and fear that your dad's going to come home at any time, and you don't know if he's going to erupt. He's really disturbing everybody in the household. You all rather he's not there, and that it's to do with drink. I mean, at that age, you're not going to really boil down. You're not going to discover the essence of why he's drinking. You're just going to see the bottle every time, and you're going to associate that. So up until this point, you've got nothing but like bad associations with alcohol.
Exactly.
And then at 17 you drink. Have you ever thought about that?
I never have, but I just, as you said that, because I never put the ages together, but I was 16 when my dad stopped drinking, and my dad was still the same person. So it wasn't the alcohol that made him do the things he did. It might have exacerbated it or made it more frequently or more severe, but my dad still beat my mom after he stopped drinking. He still berated my mom after he stopped drinking. So it's possible that, that's a great question. Does it have to do with just that I'm, becoming a teenager and becoming disruptive and becoming, trying to, buck the system? Or is it because I say, you know what, dad's still an ass, even though he's not drinking. So F that, I'm just going to start drinking too. I'm not sure.
I have a view. A view. If you want me to share the view.
Yes, of course I do. Let's hear it.
So I guess there's a multitude of different ways we could go at this, right? I mean, we could take lots of different therapeutic circles from lots of different therapeutic masters, say that you was fighting against a system. You wanted to prove to your dad that you could drink without being violent. You wanted to give him 2 fingers up, all that kind of stuff. But I think the issue here is a lot worse than that, and a lot more in our face, right? And this is what the Strive Community Forum and the Truth About Alcohol is all about. We believe here that alcoholism is an invisible, violent, dominant belief system. Okay, so if you're new to the podcast, why is it an invisible, violent, and dominant belief system? Right? It's violent because it kills 3.3 million people a year, which is more than war, terrorism, and murder combined. It's one of the causal factors in over 200 illnesses and diseases. And look around you. If you go to the town centre on a Saturday night, I live in Cardiff, I go to town centre in Cardiff on a Saturday night, every single pub and bar has a huge, big, bald-headed guy at the front. Why is he there? He's there because someone's going to stick a glass in somebody's face if he's not there, right?
Yeah.
That is, go to the A&E on a Saturday night. It is violent. I know you don't like to associate the word violent with alcohol because you think it's normal pleasurable, but there it is. Why is it dominant? Look around you, folks. How many people around you do not drink? How many? There's not many, right? The WHO, the World Health Organization, believe that 52% of the global population has tried alcohol at some point in time. That is a phenomenal statistic, right? And it's invisible because after all that I've just told you, we still go out and we drink alcohol, right? So my view is, Lynda, you turn 16. You have been designed to drink alcohol from birth by the society that you grew up in. And even the fact that your father drank alcohol and beat your mum, which is the worst thing that you could see as a child growing up, the power of the system still had hold of you, and you couldn't stop it. You can't stop it. I've just been having this conversation with my 17-year-old boy. He said to me, why do people drink? Why do they get so fucked up? Why do they do it? And I'm like, okay, let's try and stop drinking it, mate. You never drink alcohol ever again. He said, I'm thinking about it. Yeah, but you're not doing it, right? Why are you not doing it? Because it's too difficult for people. It becomes so normal, so pleasurable. And I imagine when you were 16, all you wanted to do was be like your friends and just drink like everybody else, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There you are, off my soapbox.
It was fun. It was so much fun, right?
Yes, yes. People love alcohol, and until they acknowledge and realize and understand that they love it so much, they're never going to be able to quit it. You know, that's my opinion anyway. So
yeah, it definitely is pleasurable, like you said, a part of belonging, right? Because people want to belong, and that's where I felt comfortable, was with those people, and they just happened to drink and do drugs, and those were my friends. And
especially in the teenage years when we are biologically designed to take risks. It's biologically determined that we're going to sleep with people we shouldn't sleep with. We're going to maybe try it without a condom. We're going to take drugs we're not supposed to. I always remember saying, I'm never going to snort a drug, right? I am never going to snort a drug. Got drunk one day, someone put amyl nitrate under my nose, and okay, I'll give it a sniff. It's amazing what you would do and the risks you'll take at that age, you know?
Right.
You get a little bit older like we are now, you look back and you think, oh, well, you know what I mean? What were we doing? But I think you make a really good point going back some, when you talk about your experience around your parents, that we could all learn from here. And you said that as a direct result of the experiences you went through as a child of an alcoholic, right, or whatever word you want to use to determine somebody who's lost control of their drinking, you became the person you are today. And you would not have been the person you were today if you didn't go through that pain and suffering. Okay.
Yeah.
But that pain and suffering is really, really important because it kind of gives us some grit and determination. So when people are saying, oh, no, I need to drink because I can't control these emotions and the pain and suffering is going through my head. No, you're getting it wrong. You need to experience that pain and suffering. You need to feel it because that's how growth happens. Right, Lynda?
Yep, exactly. And it's interesting you bring that up because while you're going through it, you of course don't want to go through it, but it's the end result that you have to look at and really be appreciative for those times, even though they sucked, because that's how you can empathize with somebody else who's going through that. That's how you can help to change somebody else's viewpoint, or like you bringing up what you brought up for me. So you had an idea of like why I started drinking at age 17. Now you can empathize with that because you've experienced that kind of thing. So if we don't have those experiences, we can't relate to the people that we're probably, in my opinion, we're here to help. Like I'm here to help those who have gone through what I've gone through. And I can maybe short circuit their time and trouble and agony because I've gone through it for them, kind of thing.
This is why I always encourage people who take the 3-month online training course, The Truth About Alcohol. Once they get through the other end and they finish the course and they graduate, I always say to them, okay, now you graduated and now you are someone who doesn't drink alcohol. Do you want to work with me to become a moderator to give back? and to serve others and moderate future courses. And there's two reasons for that. One, it cements the knowledge that you've obtained over these 3 months. So anybody who's taught anybody anything knows that by teaching somebody, it really does cement that knowledge in your neural pathways. Secondly, you really, at that point of time when you stop drinking, everything changes and you're at a crossroads. You think to yourself, well, what am I going to do with my time now? I'm not going to hang around with my friends anymore in the bars and the pubs. I've got this newfound confidence that I can do all the things that I wanted to do when I was younger, but I gave up because of my husband or my wife or the kids. And you don't know what to do, right? Well, what better way to use your time than to think about the things that you've experienced, yet you've overcome, and then teach that to somebody else who's in your position. To me, I'm always going to want to work with somebody who's worn my shoes, who's stared down the same barrel of the gun that I have, than somebody fresh out of school that has no clue whatsoever about how it feels to watch your dad beat your mum, how it feels to be bent over the toilet, puking blood up, and you cannot stop drinking. Yeah, just because they've got a PhD or a PQA or a PWY. Yeah, the experience is everything. And I don't know, Lynda, when people say on the Strive Community Forum, I don't know how to help other people because I'm only 2 days sober. No, you're 2 days sober. Some people can't get to 2 days, and you are full of life experiences. And what was I saying the other day? You will learn more about my car crashes than you will about my fancy car driving skills, right?
That's for sure, yeah.
Definitely. Lynda, I want to talk about your book, The Year of Fear.
Mm-hmm.
What a brilliant idea. In fact, if you hadn't thought about it, I would have done this one. So let me get this right. I haven't read your book. I think I will. Let me get this right. Every day for a year, you thought of something that you're afraid of and you did it?
Yes.
Holy crap. Yeah. That's 365 things.
Yeah, unless it's leap year, right? This was not a leap year, but
let's not split hairs about a few days.
The bonus day.
365. Wow, there's a task for you, Strive, alcohol addiction podcast listeners. Just try and write down 365 things you're afraid of. Why did you do that?
Well, I in 2014, it was August of 2014, I hired a life coach because I had been working, well, I'll just backtrack a little bit. I have had 49 jobs in my life. You're always trying to find that thing that keeps me on fire and keeps me interested. And it's obviously with 49 jobs, I didn't find that. And my final job that I had was working for a judge in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Now I worked my way up the ladder to get there. It took me a long time to get there, but I finally got there and I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is the penultimate, because I was a legal secretary. And that was the ultimate job you could have without moving to Washington, D.C., which I was not about to do because I live in San Diego. Why would I move there, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm on this job, and after about 6 or 7 months, I'm realizing I am bored. This is awful. This is my dream job, and I am bored out of my gourd. So I was on Facebook, and I saw this woman. She posted, I'm a life coach. I've been doing it for 20 years. I took a 5-year break, but I'm ready to come back. I'm looking for 5 women who are interested in changing their life. And I was like, I'm in. I have no idea who this woman is, but she came into my life at this time, and there's a reason for that. So I paid the money up front. I didn't even meet her yet. And I was like, I'm going to change my life. I have no idea what that means. And I didn't know what that meant. And I had no idea what path that was going to put me on. Because, growing up in the life that I grew up with as a young person, my first husband, I ended up marrying somebody just like my dad. Right. And I was with him for 2 years. For 2 years, he told me how stupid I was, how ignorant I was, and how people were only nice to me because they felt sorry for me. Well, the reason this is important is because it was so ingrained in my brain that I believed it. I believed him. And I was fearful of speaking because my dad's saying was, kids are better seen than heard. So I lived all of my life that way until I met this life coach. I was 51 years old. And through working with her from August to November, so just those short months, I started to realize that I had value to offer the world, and that working that job, pushing the paper for, a judge was not my offering to the world. So what I did is I quit my job. I came home, I told my husband, I'm quitting my job and we're going to sell the house. Now that house had been in my family since I was 2 years old. That's the house I grew up in.
Right.
You know, my husband and I had bought the house from my parents, from my mom when my dad had died. And so that house was the house we were living in. I don't have really great memories there. So it's not like I'm attached to that house. But my husband was. He loved my parents dearly. And he saw the great parts of my parents that I never saw because I was still stuck in being a 5-year-old child, hating my parents. So I said, we're selling the house. And he says, no, we're not. And I said, you don't understand. I figured out my calling on earth, and no human body is going to get in the way of that. And so I am selling this house with or without you. Now, this was crazy because I'd been with my husband for 26 years and I love him dearly. He's an amazing human. And he always tells me how great I am. And he compliments me and he always lifts me up. But it still wasn't enough. His lifting me up wasn't enough for me to not let my ex-husband's words get in my way. So when I came home and I told him that, and I said, no human body is going to get in my way. He said, okay, let's do it. We're going to sell the house. You're going to make the best of it. And I know you're going to succeed. And this is going to be amazing because you're an amazing, amazing woman. And so I was like, cool, we're in. So this was November of 2014, the end of it. So I went through December trying to figure out, well, what the hell am I going to do? You know, I quit my job, but I don't know what I'm doing, you know? So January 1st of 2015, I woke up and I said, I have to do something different in my life because I'm making all these changes. I'm becoming a new person. What am I going to do different? And I was laying in bed and I said, I'm going to face a fear every day. And that was what started it. So every morning in 2015, I woke up. The very first words I said to myself is, what scares me now? And whatever popped into my head, that was the thing I did that day. Whatever it was. Now, I didn't jump out of planes. I didn't bungee jump. I didn't do all those outwardly fearful things that, a lot of people might think that I would do. Mine was all internal. There were so many internal fears that I had. Like being on a podcast, there is no way I would have done that because people will actually hear me say something. They'll actually hear my voice. And what if I say something stupid, like my ex-husband told me I was stupid, right? So I had a lot of fears that were internal fears, going to networking events and meeting people, those were fears of mine, doing videos, those were fears of mine. So I had all these different internal fears that I faced for an entire year. And it was the biggest growth year of my entire life. I gained confidence that I never even knew existed, because I faced fears every single day. It was amazing.
I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
I'm going to applaud you.
I'll join in.
Let's recap on this. I want to touch upon a point a minute, and then I'm going to ask you a question on it. When I worked with Jack Canfield's team on the Success Principles coaching course, this was just after I'd given up drinking alcohol, right? So I'm already thinking I'm pretty powerful. I don't want that to sound like in a narcissistic way, but I really felt powerful because I looked around me and nobody else had done this. Nobody had done this. I knew 2 people who didn't drink, but I didn't know a single person on the planet who had quit drinking, right? That's not true. My granddad had quit drinking, other than my granddad. So I felt really powerful. And then Jack Canfield was like, well, you can actually be or do whatever you want to be or do. The only thing that's stopping you is you, right? Mm-hmm. And at this time, I was a 20-year railwayman. I'd identified, I was a railwayman. I was £30,000 in debt, Lynda, and my plan to pay that debt off was to retire at 55 and use my retirement money to pay it off. I had no clue how I was going to pay it off. So my entire life orientation was, I need to work this job, which I hate, until I'm 55, retire and pay my debt off. That was my life goal, right? And then I realized in that moment, holy shit, I've got to quit this job. And listening to what you said about, holy shit, I got to sell my house. I'm saying, holy shit, I got to quit my job. I'm wondering about the power of making a really big change very, very quickly in this because we go see a life coach, or someone will listen to this podcast right now, they'll go away from this podcast and go, wow, Lynda sold a house. Wow, Lee packed his job in. And we all had families, right? At that time, we had responsibilities.
Right.
And then you'll feel that momentum, and the juices will be flowing. You'll be feeling all excited and up for it. And then tomorrow or the next day, it'll start to peter off a little bit. And eventually you'll just be back stuck in the sand of the status quo. I think what me and Lynda did is we felt the fear, bit of Susan Jeffersy. We felt the fear and did it anyway. And the fact that we did something quite quickly and quite powerfully kept that momentum going, got us over that hurdle a little bit, and now we're less likely to be put off by those things. Well, you just went for it, didn't you, for a year?
Right.
What do you think about that thought?
Well, I love that, because what I discovered is, by facing a fear every single day, is that we have fears all the time, but a lot of times we don't face it because it's too scary. It's frankly just too scary. So that is really important to feel that fear, realize it's just fear, and then do it anyway. Do it scared. So I'm doing so many things. I went to go to a comedian open mic night last night.
Right.
Now my name didn't get called to go up on the stage. I was terrified. I did not want to do it, but I you know what? I'm scared. That's why I'm going to do it. So I look at fear so differently now. It's like, when I realize that I'm scared of something, that's why I do it. It's such a different dynamic.
And I think that as well, I think it's really important. There'll be a lot of people listening to this podcast that have got low self-esteem issues.
Right.
That are little mice in the jungle of life. They like wallflowers. They don't want to be seen because they don't want to make a mistake or be put back in their place. And they've developed this identity for a long period of time. And the fear of quitting drinking alcohol, the fear of saying to your husband, I don't want to live with you anymore because you're boring, the fear of saying, no, I have to put myself first, the fear of going to the gym, all those things, you think it's because you are a certain way. Well, let me tell you something. When I finish with this podcast with Lynda in approximately 20 minutes, I'm going to jiu-jitsu class with my son. I've never been to jiu-jitsu class before in my life. I am so nervous right now and so fearful. But why am I nervous and fearful? I'm nervous and fearful because I don't know how to get there. I've never been there before. I don't know what the guy's going to be like. Is he going to be nice? Is he going to be aggressive? Am I going to be able to handle it? Am I wearing the right clothes? Is everybody else going to be really big and I'm just a puny little guy? Am I going to run out of steam? Is someone going to make me tap out on the first day? Am I going to smell a BO? I had a cheese and onion sandwich earlier on. Am I going to breathe in someone's face when he has me in a headlock? And do you know what's going to happen, Lynda? I'm going to go there full of all this fear. I'm going to absolutely love it. And I'm going to leave. And the next time I go, those fears that I've had have now diminished because I know how to get there. I know what the person's like. I know what to wear, blah, blah, blah. But you don't know that until you've done it. And why am I saying this? Because I'm a host of a podcast. So you would listen to this and think, well, Lee's got his shit together. He's a confident guy. He knows what he's doing. No, I'm fearful all the time. Lynda's probably fearful all the time. It has nothing to do with whether or not we are an extrovert or an introvert, cocky, not cocky. Every single human being suffers from fear because fear is normal and we shouldn't try to get rid of it. We should dial it down a little bit.
I totally agree. And you know what? I came up with a drop mic, right? Drop the mic. Well, I came up with an acronym because while I was going through this, I kept hearing fear is a false evidence appearing real. And I'm like, you know what though? If you face your fears, it's different. So I came up with my own acronym. And that what I realized through facing fears every single day is that when you have faith, it erases your anxious reactions.
I like that.
Because my faith, so when I told my husband I'm quitting my job, it's because I totally 100% believe that while I was driving to work that day, that I was told exactly what I'm here for and who I am here to help. By God. And so because of that, that's why I tell my husband, no human body can get in the way of what he has sent me here to do. And so that is faith, right? That's really like leaping out on faith 100%. Now my faith has not wavered in over 3 years. I still have faith that what I'm doing is the right path I'm supposed to be doing to get me to the destination I'm supposed to go. Now, we might not always know what our destination is, and that's okay. We can make goals and plans to get there. But if something happens that takes us off trajectory because we're supposed to be going somewhere else, I think that's okay, as long as we're open to seeing that. And that's what I'm open to, is open to seeing the possibilities. It's really interesting that well, first of all, you mentioned Jack Canfield. I met him a couple of weeks ago at a red carpet event. Now, I was on the red carpet interviewing stars. 2 weeks before that, I never even had that on my mind that I was going to do that. And then what happened was one day I said, you know what? I think I want to be on the red carpet interviewing stars. So I reached out to the organizer and I said, hey, can I be a live video correspondent on the red carpet? And he said, yeah, of course. And I was like, oh, that was easy. You know?
And then you're like, what do I do now?
I was like, oh my God, I asked. Okay. And then, now, oh my God, I got to get shoes. I got to get a dress. I got to get my hair done. I'm having all these nervous reactions to it that, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? What am I going to ask them? How do I get them to, talk to me? All these questions, going through my head. So I had all these fears, so many, like you were talking about, so many fears were entering, right? And so what happened was, when I finally showed up, I had my own videographer. I brought my own videographer. His name's on the guest list, which that was also scary for me to ask about. But there we showed up. We had our press pass, and we're standing there, and I'm like, let's just do it. Yeah. So we did. We just did it. Neither of us knew what we were doing. Yeah. But we did it, and we looked like pros. People were like, I love your questions. That was so amazing. Let me give you my card because I want to connect with you later. So I had, one of the gentlemen I interviewed was a player for New England Patriots. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I really loved your questions. Let's get together. I'm like, okay. So it's so amazing I went there as me.
Yeah.
That was the key. I showed up as Lynda instead of worrying about all that other stuff. I let that go and just showed up as Lynda, and I had a blast. And now here's the thing. Here's the point that you made. That's just in a different way. Now I saw the organizer of the event about a couple days later, and I said, you know what? That was so much fun. Thank you for allowing me to be on the red carpet. Now I expect it.
Yeah. I like
Totally different mindset, because now that I've gone through the fear of the unknowing, now I expect it.
Let's talk
confidence,
about,
right?
Let's talk about perception, and then we'll talk about faith, right? So, drop me pen. So, little tip for anyone listening to this to get above this fear thing, not above it, but to understand it and be closer to it, right? Is something called the pleasure perception sheet. Okay. So Lynda just talked there about being on the red carpet, and she said that before she went on the red carpet, she's really fearful about it. Right. So what you could do is you get your sheet of paper, you wake up in the morning and you say to yourself, what's the first thing I'm going to do this morning? Well, the first thing I'm going to do this morning is take a shower. How much do I believe I'm going to enjoy that experience out of 10, right? Okay. So, I'm going to enjoy my shower 7 out of 10, right? Have your shower, right? How much did you enjoy your shower? Well, actually, it was a 9 out of 10. Right, what are you going to do next? Oh, first thing I'm doing, I'm in work, I've got a meeting with a boss. Are you looking forward to that one? 6 out of 10, so I really don't like him. It's 4 out of 10 because it was worse than you thought. Then you're going to watch, I don't know, The Walking Dead later on Netflix. You think that it's going to be an 8 out of 10. You watch it, it's a 4 out of 10. So if you keep doing this all the time, you can say to yourself, wow, I really am petrified about my job. And with good reason, because I never enjoy it. I waste my time watching The Walking Dead because I think it's really good, but actually it's a load of crap and I'm really not enjoying it. And I'm really, really worried about going to jiu-jitsu, but every time I do jiu-jitsu, I'm really, really enjoying it. And you can start to understand that your perception of your fear is the real key indicator here, not actually doing it. But until you get it down on paper or digital paper, and it's just in your head and you're trying to make sense of it in your head, it doesn't work. You've got to empty, you've got to have a mind dump here. And you've got to say to yourself, okay, all these different things I do every day, am I going to enjoy them? Because as a human being, we so want to be comfortable. I so want to just stay in the house tonight and not go to jiu-jitsu, right? So it's so easy to put yourself off that you really need to look at it. So perception is everything. Let me give you another example. 44% of people who take my Truth About Alcohol training course finish it. 44%. I was talking to Greg Reed, who you know very well, and I said to Greg, only 44% of people get through my course. And Greg said, whoa,
that's big.
44%. That's huge.
Yep.
Perception, ladies and gentlemen, it's about how you want to approach something, right? Let's talk about faith a little bit. I'm interested, and I'll pass it over to yourself. Something that came up for me. It sounded like you believe in God, and you're religious. And,
yes. Yes.
I don't believe in God. However, when I quit drinking and when I quit my job, I was a very strong, devout believer in the law of attraction. I didn't have a clue how it was happening, but shit was happening everywhere. I was having synchronicities. I was closing my eyes and saying I wanted to meet people I hadn't seen for 20 years, and they were turning up the next morning when I was buying milk. All kind of stuff was happening. And I very quickly said to myself, I am going to give myself over to this power. I didn't know what it was. I didn't label it God or anything like that. But it worked for me. And I found over the last 10 years that when I take my foot off the gas and I don't put faith in whatever it is, and I don't spend much time thinking about what it is, but when I take my foot off the gas and I don't believe, things start to drift back a bit. But when I then kickstart myself and I start meditating and I start putting myself in that place and I start saying, okay, universe, this is what I want, go give it to me, things start happening again. How did it work for you? What was the moment with your life coach that you thought, boom, a light bulb went on and everything changed and faith got involved?
Well, it wasn't actually the life coach that, like, I remember that exact moment that the faith got involved. And that was, I was sitting at a workshop, and there were about, I want to say 18 people sitting around the table at this workshop. And the proctor, workshop lady or whatever, she asked a question. And for some reason, I'm 51 years old. 51 years, I had never raised my hand before. I always sat in the back of the room. You know, when we go to movies, I always sat in the back. I did not want to be seen at all because, remember, kids are better seen than heard. That's what was always playing in my head. And I'm stupid, remember? So I'm always playing these things in my head. For some reason, my hand shot up higher than high. And I was like, what are you doing up there? Get down, come down, you know? And so she called on me and I spoke. Whatever it was I said, I don't remember. But what I do remember is that moment when I stood up and then I said what I said. I sat down. The two women sitting next to me both whispered in my ears, both of them. They said, that was brilliant. Can you repeat it? Because I want to write it down. And that was the moment in my mind, my head was swirling, just swirling with thoughts. And the thoughts were, you have value. You need to start sharing that. And that was like part of what started me on the journey of, you know, putting myself out there. And by putting myself out there, helped me to gain more confidence. And sometimes, you know, some people might look at me and say, gosh, she's pompous. You know, what I've realized is that people with confidence, what's wrong with us sharing that we're confident? Because hopefully that will encourage others to also be confident. Having confidence is good as long as you're not hurting anybody and as long as you're doing good for the world, which is what I believe my confidence does, because I put myself out there in a way that's motivating people, inspiring people to change their lives and to become better people.
It's really sad. You just reminded me of just recently I went to my uncle's 70th birthday party and I took my boy Jude with me, 17. And the only two people in that room who weren't drinking is my son and me. And we were the only two men who got up and danced all night, just to prove to anyone listening that you don't have to drink alcohol to dance. And there was a moment in the night where my boy was in the middle of the dance floor, surrounded by the four best looking girls in the club, all poking his chest and paying attention to him. And I looked across the room and there was this guy, he's my cousin actually, who I haven't seen for over 10 years. And he was staring at him, giving him the eye. You know the eye, like,
Yep.
I'm gonna take your head off any minute now because I don't like the fact that you're on that dance floor in the middle of all these women. What are you doing there? You cocky, arrogant person. And I was watching him thinking, I got to stay on guard here. And I said to my boy afterwards, I was really proud of you for getting up and dancing. I was really proud of you to see that confidence in you. But just be aware that where we live and where we exist in the UK, people are going to want to take your head off for having that confidence. And it is so sad. And I said to him, if there's any reason why you shouldn't drink, it's because of the situations that you will find yourself in because of your peer group. It's really important to be the one who's aware, the one who sees the trouble coming before it's even happened, the one who steps out of the way before the bottle comes flying or the person falls over. And I know that sounds a bit melodramatic, folks, but that's what it's like when you grow up in South Wales in the UK. You've got to take care of yourself. And you just reminded me then that sometimes it could be very sad that people confuse confidence with arrogance or narcissism or egotism. It's not. It's just being confident.
Yeah. And confidence is a great thing. Somebody said the other day, the sexiest thing on a woman is confidence. Mm-hmm. You know, to be able to walk around just confident in herself and being herself, because we live, like you said, you know, we so often live in inauthenticity because we feel like we need to impress this person or be like these people. And so when we can step into being truly authentic, first you have to discover who you are. That took me a while to discover that. But once I discovered who I was able to actually step into it and say, this is who I am. Take me or leave me. And it's okay if you leave me, because if you leave me, it means that you weren't meant for me anyway, because now I'm at least being me, being who I am.
And I like the way you say you discovered who you are, not you became somebody else, right? So it's almost, and I think this is super important. Everyone listening to this, think of yourself as, I don't know the story, you probably heard of it. There's somewhere in Asia, there was a Buddha, a giant Buddha that was, I don't know, made out of concrete or looked like it was just an old shabby Buddha that for years people went up there and prayed to it and whatnot. And then someone chipped away at it once or it just come away through time. And it was actually golden. So underneath it, it was golden. And I always think of that metaphor as what we're doing here at the Strive and the Truth About Alcohol is we're not trying to become someone new or trying to transform into something else. Although I'll say sometimes we do get our communication and our conversation and the way that we word it wrong, just because of societal conditioning and all that kind of stuff. But let's be really, really clear right now. You're not being someone else. You are perfectly fine the way you are. Mm-hmm. Foibles and all, right? So you just need to just chip away at all this crap that all these defenses, the shield that you've put around you so people can't see who you are, and get rid of that so we can reveal the real you. You don't have to transform into anyone. You're all right the way you are,
Exactly. And, if you don't like the way you are, now maybe you might want to change that. And that's okay too. I had things about me that I didn't like, the way I treated some people, because growing up the way I grew up, I tend to not be very nice to people because I had to protect myself by being mean to others. And that's unfortunately what we do, I think, a lot of times in society, is that we're like the man who had that glaring eye at your son. There was some insecurities that he had that made him see your son as a threat. Yeah. And so he had, this glare at him, and which could have turned into, like, you could have turned into a volatile situation. Fortunately, it didn't, but it could have. And that could be because of whatever experiences he's had in his life. Now, maybe he would say to himself, you know what? I don't really like that part of me, and I want to change that. So we do have the ability to change who we are. And I'm a great testament to that, because after only a short couple months with my life coach, my life started changing, and people were noticing, saying, you are so different than you were when I last saw you. And here it is 3.5 years later, and people are still saying, you're still changing. Like, I'm changing and becoming a better person because I'm choosing to. And it's all our choice. How we are is our choice every single day, every minute of every day.
What a perfect way to leave it. Lynda West, I've really enjoyed your time in your company. I just want to say huge debt of gratitude for coming back home when you was 5 years of age, because if you didn't come back home when you was 5, you wouldn't be doing all the great work you were doing now. You certainly inspired me to think of 365 things that I'm afraid of and go and do it. And I'm going to go and do one of them right now, because I'm just about to get my son in a leg lock. So thank you.
I love it.
You enjoy that?
Well, you know what? Breathe on him because you had the onions.
I will. I'll death breath him with my onion. Thank you very much, Lynda.
Thank you.